The toilets are opposite the two main doors. So the doors through which you entered, the opposite of those two doors. In the unlikely event of an emergency, fire alarm goes off. We'll walk in an orderly fashion through these two doors that you entered, and we'll assemble in the car park behind this lecture theater. And morning tea, lunch, and afternoon tea will be served in the tent behind this lecture theater in the car park. Thank you. I'll now hand over to Dr. Sandra Tart.
Thank you, Nilesh. Good morning, everyone. It's my pleasure to chair this opening session of the 2017 Pacific Update. Unfortunately, our acting dean is unable to be here with us today. I would like to first of all invite our chief guests to please take their seats at the front. Thank you. Before I invite Professor Richard Cole to officially welcome you to this morning's session and to the Pacific Update, I would like to ask that we observe a minute's silence for the late President of Vanuatu, Mr. Baldwin Lonsdale. Could you please stand? Thank you. Please sit. The Pacific Update is an important event in our calendar at USP, and we are very proud to host this conference in partnership with ANU and the ADB. It's my pleasure now to invite Professor Richard Cole, Deputy Vice Chancellor, Learning and Teaching at USP, to give his welcoming remarks. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Tart. The Chief Guest, the Minister for Education, Heritage, Arts and National Archives of Fiji, the Honourable Dr. Mahendra Reddy, Secretary General, Pacific Islands Forum Secretariat, Ms. Dame Meg Taylor, Excellencies and members of the Diplomatic Corps, the Director of Pacific Department of the Asian Development Bank, Ms. Emma Ver, Director of Development Policy Centre, Australian National University, Professor Stephen Howes, members of the University Council, Senate and the committees, members of the staff and distinguished speakers, invited guests, ladies and gentlemen. It's my pleasure to welcome you to USP for this Pacific Update, and I'd like to extend a special welcome to our Chief Guest, the Honourable Minister for Education, Dr. Mahendra Reddy. Minister, we're grateful for your acceptance of the invitation to open this important development dialogue for the Pacific, and I'd just like to add a personal thanks to the Minister, who's been enormously generous with USP. We prey upon his generosity outrageously, and he's never turns us down. He's always been very generous in helping us with a number of events of this nature, so thank you, Minister. It's a very warm welcome to you all for this 2017 Pacific Update Conference, and as Dr. Tart mentioned, it's an annual event organised in partnership with the Asian Development Bank, Australian National University Development Policy Centre and USP's School of Economics. This is the third year of this conference at USP, and as you can see looking around the room, this has continued to grow and is bigger and better and attracting significant interest locally, regionally and internationally to develop on what are, I think everyone would agree, very important development issues facing the Pacific region. I'd like to take the opportunity to express our appreciation to the University's key partners who continue to enable us to host this annual conference. ADBA and NU have been long partners of the University in a broader sense, but also particularly in relation to the specific update conference, and their support is greatly appreciated. Ladies and gentlemen, the conference is the premier forum for discussing critical policy challenges in the Pacific. It gathers policymakers, academics and researchers, business people and development practitioners to discuss important economic and social challenges in the region. And I think that's a particularly impressive mixture of people. If you have only academics talking to each other, you don't make much traction. If you have only business people and only policymakers, you don't. So I think it's a particularly valuable mixture of groups here to address the issues in a more holistic sense that we really need to deal with these types of issues. This year's conference focuses on some three key themes: promoting a blue-green economy, enhancing connectivity, and creating accessible jobs. And I'd just like to talk briefly to each of those themes. Promoting the blue-green economy is critical because the environment is such an important part of the livelihoods of Pacific Islanders. And this theme will explore the concept of the blue-green economy in the Pacific context and examine how to strengthen climate change resilience, enhance disaster risk management, and scale up the adoption of renewable energies. The role of various mechanisms such as regional cooperation, infrastructure upgrading, development financing, and establishment of legal protection also will be covered in this theme. Enhancing connectivity, it's no secret to anyone in this room the geographical isolation and remoteness of many of the Pacific Island countries, particularly the small island developing states. And we must enhance their connectivity, their links to the world, including through fast, efficient and affordable internet access. The sessions in the conference will discuss developments on information communications technology and the implications of this on expanding opportunities for trade and e-commerce. Collective action through regional cooperation is important to achieve a blue-green economy as well, and the session will look at the impact on framework for Pacific regionalism on public policy engagement. And the third theme, creating accessible jobs. Expanding employment opportunities is vital in a region with such a huge youth bulge. And I was just talking with some colleagues from ADB before the meeting about the demographic statistics around that. And so those sessions looking at demographics help us to understand the context, and we can see how important dealing with employability is for when we have such a bulge in the youth population right across the region. The sessions will focus on creation of jobs and explore how to make jobs more accessible to a local workforce through skills formation and technical vocational education and training. And the universities are very pleased to be involved in these areas and looking to try and support these initiatives. There will also be a session discussing the impacts and prospects of migration and labour mobility programs. Based on these three themes, there are several topic issues related directly to the Pacific Islands. They include achieving the blue-green economy, sustainable ecotourism, labour markets and skills upgrading, climate change adaptation and resilience, a framework for Pacific regionalism and its impact on public policy engagement, disaster response and risk financing. There are also special sessions on Fiji and PNG economies. These conference sessions are designed to raise the awareness of the opportunities and the challenges facing Pacific Island countries. The presenters are a very interesting mixture of academics and policymakers, and I think that's important for research dissemination and for research impacting upon policy and decision making. We are streaming the presentations and discussions to reach out to more people. The media will be active in disseminating our findings and our discussions, and we're putting all the presentations on the web almost immediately after presentations, using some new digital technologies the university heavily invested in last year. We hope that the conference will allow policymaking and researchers to network for longer term collaboration. As an academic myself, then I know that is often the greatest benefit of a conference of this nature is the connections you make, the networks you form, and what happens after the conference in addition to what happens at the conference. The conference will have an evaluation at the close of the conference, and I'd like to encourage everyone to provide honest and frank feedback, but polite feedback, on that, so that future conferences can continue to improve, so that we're sure that we're providing a quality conference and experience for all of you. With this, ladies and gentlemen, I wish you the very best in deliberations for the next 2 days, and I hope to improve the development outcomes that are inclusive and promote our resilience in the widest sense of the word. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Professor Cole. It is now my honor to introduce Dame Meg Taylor, Secretary General of the Pacific Islands Forum Secretariat, who will present the opening remarks. Dame Meg Taylor is a Papua New Guinean lawyer and diplomat. She received her LLB degree from Melbourne University, Australia, and her LLM degree from Harvard University, USA. She practiced law in Papua New Guinea and serves as a member of the Law Reform Commission. The daughter of Australian explorer Jim Taylor, she was made a Dame Commander of the Order of the British Empire in 2002. From 1989 to 1994, she was Ambassador of Papua New Guinea to the United States, Mexico, and Canada in Washington, D.C. Until 2014, she was Vice President, Compliance Advisor, Ombudsman for the International Finance Corporation of the Multilateral Investment Guarantee Agency of the World Bank Group. On 31st July 2014, Dame Meg was appointed Secretary General to the Pacific Islands Forum Secretariat, an intergovernmental organization that aims to enhance cooperation between independent states of the Pacific Ocean. She is the first woman to hold that post. Please welcome Dame Meg Taylor.
Uluvinaka, good morning, ladies and gentlemen, and good morning through Lord Twantilani Kamlo Melanisha Milukimol. Your Excellency, the Honourable Minister for Education of Fiji, Minister Mahendra Reddy, Her Excellency, the High Commissioner of Australia. And let me also acknowledge the Chancellor of the University who was here, Ambassador Thompson. And let me acknowledge the sponsors of this meeting, the Australian National University, but also the Asian Development Bank, and I think I've missed one, of course, the University of the South Pacific. Forums such as the Pacific Update are important for this region. They provide the opportunity for a convergence of stakeholders to support policy making and implementation through the provision of information and advice that is grounded in research and analysis, and through the scrutiny of policy on issues of importance to our region. At a time where the challenges that we face in the Pacific are increasingly essential in nature, our policy responses need to be informed by evidence and rigorous analysis. As such, the link between the policy and research communities needs to be stronger than it has ever been. The themes of this conference, promoting blue-green economy, enhancing connectivity, accessible employment, reflect the major regional issues as well as the theme of the Forum Leaders meeting this year in Samoa. Those who may have heard or read Prime Minister Tuilepa's speech at the UN Oceans Conference last week will be familiar with the concept of the Blue Pacific. In short, the Blue Pacific seeks to recapture the collective potential of our shared stewardship of the Pacific Ocean, based on an explicit recognition of our shared ocean identity, ocean geography, and ocean resources. It aims to strengthen collective action as one Blue Pacific continent by putting the Blue Pacific at the center of policy making and collective action for advancing the Pacific Island Forum leaders' vision for the region. To reiterate my earlier comments, evidence and informed analysis is vital for the development of sound policy. So I commend the organisers for hosting the Pacific Update, particularly here at our regional university. It is a welcome opportunity for the convergence of regional policy and research communities, and this event will only serve to strengthen the advice that we provide the leaders. Let me turn to the regional context, provide a backdrop for these remarks, and set the scene for the discussions to come over the next few days. For almost 5 decades, the independent countries of the Pacific have addressed common interests through a variety of regional and increasingly sub-regional approaches. The motivation for this is simple. We know that we can achieve more together than alone. The geopolitical and development context of the Pacific has shifted, and the region faces a range of external and internal factors that are acting to reshape it, including increasing plurality of regional actors, shifts in global power, and unmet development challenges. Such factors spur us to rethink the form that Pacific regionalism needs to take in order to address our complex contemporary challenges, including poverty, non-communicable diseases, social inequities, gender issues, and our unique vulnerabilities and dependencies. Successfully and sustainably addressing these issues is no easy task. Many of these challenges are not new and have in fact persisted despite our best collective efforts to date. And whilst regionalism cannot be blamed for this state of affairs, we nonetheless need to ensure we maximise opportunities where working together as a region can make a difference. This commitment must not only be displayed at the global level, where we are doing very well, but we must be committed to working together in our own region. Pacific Island leaders have nonetheless recognised the need for a new, inclusive and game-changing approach to Pacific regionalism. A regionalism that can not only realise the unmet development needs of the Pacific Islands people, but also meet the demands of the new global development paradigm. It is this new Pacific regionalism that I would like to talk about today. At the heart of this new approach is an emphasis on inclusive and robust policy development and implementation, as well as recognition of the political dimensions for ensuring development outcomes for the Pacific. Pacific Island leaders have recognised that Pacific regionalism now and into the future must be adaptable, innovative, inclusive, and most importantly, it must positively impact the lives of our people. Indeed, if our collective actions do not impact positively on the lives of the people of the Pacific, then we have not succeeded. Pacific Island Forum leaders have responded to these challenges through the endorsement of the Framework for Pacific Regionalism in 2014. It is through the framework that I believe we are in the early and formative stages of what is a new era for Pacific regionalism, one that will strengthen our ability to chart our own destiny. As Secretary General to the Pacific Island Forum, the framework, its vision, values and objectives is the regional lens through which we support Pacific Island countries to achieve the leaders' vision for this region. It is critical to understand that the framework is not a development plan or agenda. Rather, it expresses the political ambition of our leaders to navigate the Pacific through the global and regional geopolitical forces that impact on our region's ability to achieve development impact for its people. The framework emphasizes that the regional agenda must be determined by Pacific people themselves, not regional and international organizations, not donors, but leaders and their people. Regionalism has to be adaptable so that it can respond to those individuals, communities and countries who are vulnerable, fragile and in need of development opportunities. Regionalism must be innovative in identifying the areas in which we can have the greatest impact. It must be innovative and responsive in how it engages with Pacific people and to address those areas. And it must be innovative in responding to issues in ways that will ensure the best development outcomes. Pacific regionalism has to be inclusive so that we have access to the breadth of experience and insights that exist in our people. It has to be inclusive to make sure that its impacts on those in our communities who are most in need. It has to be inclusive because only by looking at the whole picture can we identify where we might make the most profound impact. So for the past 2 years, we have developed and implemented a regional public consultation process, driven by the submission of regional policy ideas from the public, and with the Specialist Subcommittee on Regionalism playing a central role to make recommendations to leaders around which issues require leaders' attention. I am proud that we've been able to institute a process of public consultation that helps to inform regional policy making, and to me this responds to one of the key concerns emanating from the Pacific Plan Review. Another key initiative the Secretariat has implemented during the last 2 forum meetings is a dialogue between the Forum Troika and regional civil society organisations. Reinforcing the value of this dialogue, the Samoan Prime Minister has undertaken to involve all Forum leaders when they meet in Apia in September this year. Therefore, the new emerging wave of regionalism maintains the people-centred lens and Pacific control of a regional agenda. It fosters wider political engagement and manoeuvres creatively through and around structures with the common goal of improving the lives of our Pacific peoples. Further, and of particular importance, the framework places strong emphasis on the fact that achieving impact requires us to work together, not just as states, but in ways that include all actors in the region. In addition to this principle of inclusivity, evidence and informed analysis are also critical to the development and implementation of sound regional policy. While we have established closer links with civil society and private sector over the past few years, we must broaden our engagement to include the research community. We, at the Forum Secretariat, who are responsible for the development of regional policy, must engage with the research community and ensure that the advice we furnish on to Forum leaders is based on evidence and on informed analysis. Starting with the University of South Pacific, I would welcome a regularized process for greater engagement and interaction with the research community. In addition, I will charge my staff to begin a more regular engagement with research institutions as part of our policy-making processes. The Forum Secretariat is developing a report that provides members and other stakeholders with a contextual analysis of the region. This State of Regionalism report will provide foundational information on the region, upon which leaders can make informed policy decisions. We have engaged with researchers and academics in the preparation of this document, and as we revise and update it into the future, we will continue to remain engaged with the research community. In the areas in which we have technical courage, we must continue to draw on evidence and informed analysis. Gender, peace and conflict, trade, private sector development, development finance, climate finance, governance. We must do more to draw on research and analysis to carry out this work. And I look forward to this convergence of research and policy, allowing us to develop more homegrown solutions to our enduring challenges. Let me share two examples of such responses to our challenges. One example is in our current work in developing a regional finance facility. This concept was tabled for Forum Economic Ministers earlier this year, and we will continue to refine it so that it meets the expectation of our member countries. A second example relates to the unique vulnerabilities faced by the Pacific being the basis for certain privileges in accessing development financing. One important way that such privileges are determined is through fragility assessments undertaken by multilateral donors, where the definition of fragility has been limited to that of conflict states. In late 2015, the Forum Chair, the Prime Minister of Papua New Guinea, wrote to the World Bank requesting a redefinition of fragility to include the recognition of climatic vulnerabilities. Discussions with the multilateral development banks on this issue are ongoing. These two examples demonstrate the increasing innovation in our responses to the challenges we face. And in both instances, we have relied on research and informed analysis in developing our responses. Beyond our own policy remit at the Forum Secretariat, we need to ensure that work of our implementing partners, including our fellow crop agencies, is always underpinned by evidence and analysis that is relevant to our region. To close, let me reiterate a few points. Firstly, regionalism is essential in the Pacific to help us respond to the enduring challenges that we face. But regionalism must be impactful and responsive. The concept of the Blue Pacific offers a powerful new narrative around which we may organize and develop key regional policy and actions for the collective benefit of our people. On this new concept of the Blue Pacific, I should register my optimism in its potential, particularly its potential to mobilize attention and energy. Our efforts over the past 2 years to generate momentum around regional issues has sometimes been very challenging and sometimes rather difficult. But from my perspective, I see the possibilities in our cohering around this concept of the Blue Pacific, and I'm excited about the potential. Lastly, let me also reiterate the central theme of my remarks today, that we must make better use of research and informed analysis to develop regional policy. From this perspective, I recognize the importance of the events such as the Pacific Update within our broader policy-making processes, and wish you all the best over the next few days. and we look forward to some tangible and useful outcomes from your deliberations. I thank you.
Thank you, Dame Meg, for your opening remarks. I now have the privilege of inviting the Honourable Dr. Mahendra Reddy, Minister for Education, Heritage, Culture and Arts in the Government of Fiji, to present the keynote address. Dr. Reddy is a former academic and a former colleague of ours at USP, and we're very glad that he is back with us today. Thank you, Minister.
Keep my place here, Professor. The USP Acting Vice Chancellor, Deputy Vice Chancellor Teaching and Learning, Professor Richard Cole, Dame Meg Taylor, the Secretary General of Pacific Islands Forum Secretariat, Mr. Vincent Thompson, the Pro-Chancellor and Chair of USP Council, Excellencies and members of the Diplomatic Corps, representatives of the university's main development partners, members of the regional and international organizations, Honorable Professor Biman Prasad, the leader of the National Federation Party, senior Fijian government officials, members of the University Council, professors, members of the Senate, and senior management team and staff, students of USP and other universities in Fiji, Professor Tart, the chair of the session, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, Bulabinaka to you all. Ladies and gentlemen, it is my foremost pleasure to offer my warm, heartfelt welcome to you all to Fiji. I bring along our Honorable Prime Minister, Mani Manama's special words of appreciation for your presence and invite you all to enjoy the Fijian hospitality as you get time outside this conference. I, at this juncture, applaud the efforts of the partners to this conference, the Asian Development Bank, the Australian National University's Development Policy Centre, our own very regional university, University of the South Pacific School of Economics, for organizing the conference. I do recall the early days of this conference, which started as Fiji Update. This conference now has grown in stature, size, and quality, and I extend my commendation to the successful partnership who have worked to take this highly successful event to where it is today. Ladies and gentlemen, the Pacific Update Conference is a vital forum for discussing important issues of public policy in the region. The concerted deliberations through the gathering of policymakers, academics, researchers, private sector and public sector partners, business people and other development practices adds to the prestige of this conference. It is an excellent example of the link between research and policy, thus contributing to better use of research findings for the ultimate benefit of the society. Ladies and gentlemen, often we see research done by academics not reaching policymakers or presented in a language and format which is not really understandable by the general users, not only in policymakers but in the society as well. The society looks upon the academics and researchers as the critic and conscious of the society and providing that knowledge that will push the frontier of the society. And it is in this regard that we have a lot of expectations of the research and academia to assist the policy-making community in making sharper policies so that we can use our resources for the best and mix. I've also been given to understand through the program that this year in particular, those students who are in the final phase of research work on the Pacific Island states will also be given the opportunity to be part of this conference. The engagement of these young budding researchers is a good investment as they will be at the forefront of knowledge creation in the future. Thus, this is another major long-term contribution from this conference. We in the policy making arena understand firsthand the dearth of expertise in the area of doing research, particularly primary research, to help us in policy making. Conferences like this, symposium, workshops, help develop cadre of research expertise throughout the region. And I applaud USP's contribution towards this, and I can see visibly, I can see USP increasingly contributing towards building the research capacity and profile in the region. Ladies and gentlemen, we have more than 11 million people in the Pacific who add on to the Earth's population. We even have 12 island nations who are members of the World Bank. We have some of the world's most unique environments, including the Pacific being the tuna hub of the world. Our rich culture and traditions have been the jewel of the Pacific, which is marveled by all globally. The friendliness and the caring attitude of the Pacific people has given us the Tag Pacific way. We pride ourselves on our food and hospitality. Our Pacific Island nations are also making the mark internationally in other areas such as sports and recreation. However, ladies and gentlemen, not everything is as rosy as we may see from the outside. Despite the above, some very unique features, our per capita income growth rates have not kept up with the population growth rates, thus contributing to growing inequality and hardships. Urban-centered growth rates have benefited the rich and elite and excluded the rural and maritime population from participating in the growth process, thus depriving them from benefiting from the urban-centered growth process. Ladies and gentlemen, until and unless we make concerted efforts to include those in the marginals, the urban, in the rural and maritime, to participate in the growth process, then the growing benefits from the economic growth process will not trickle down to these people in the margins. Pacific Island countries also have withstood major issues and scenarios which are affecting the overall growth and expansion aims. Issues such as loss of skilled labor, rise in NCDs, greater vulnerability from natural disasters, exploitation of natural resources, and more recently climate change has always but surely extended its grip on Pacific nations. The Pacific at present to a wider extent can be deemed the breathing laboratory for studies on climate change, with many of our islands succumbing to the effects of sea level rise. Therefore, conferences of this nature, which seeks to evaluate policies and research aimed at countering Pacific Island issues, is highly instrumental. And I do see a lot of researches done specifically by Pacific researchers or researchers working on Pacific, and this is very encouraging because this will ensure that the policy making is relevant to the people and relevant to the region. Ladies and gentlemen, I understand that the two-day conference will focus in particular on three areas. The first one on enhancing connectivity in areas such as regionalism, cooperation, trade, infrastructure, and ICT is exceptionally valuable to contemporary Pacific. Pacific Island nations' limitations in connectedness are particularly attributed to the vast swath of the Pacific Oceans. As such, all our efforts have been to be united towards greater networking and through regular interactions and blending. The second focus area has targeted labor mobility, job creation, and labor market developments in the Pacific. I do hope that we will look at labor mobility in a positive sense of how it could contribute and enhance the growth and development of the Pacific region, rather than the traditional way of thinking of brain drain. Again, the importance of this area is indispensable. Our growing economies continuously need to tap into new and transition job skills of us people to meet the growing demands of diverse forms of labor. One such area is the issue of labor supply and demand in the field of science and technology in the Pacific. We in Fiji have been concerned about the lack of uptake by our children in the area of science and are looking at how we could increase students' curiosity and interest in science. The other is the constant migration of experts and qualified people for greener pastures. As alluded to, we need to look at how we could build this bridge by ensuring that we open up to the experts, the stock of human capital outside the region in the short to medium term, so that we can push the growth and development of Pacific Island countries. The third key focus of this conference, sustainable development, exploring the meaning of the blue-green growth, is extremely fitting, especially given the giant strides our nation Fiji has taken to advocate environmental sustainability and preservation of the natural environment, including our oceans, and spearheading the global campaign against climate change. Honorable Prime Minister of Fiji has stood tall amidst the global giants, ensuring that the Pacific's call and voice is heard. Fiji's input towards the COP23 agenda in the United Nations Oceans Conference is there for all to see. The Honorable Prime Minister has made a collective call on the world to take action to preserve our planet, and I'm sure this echoes the feelings and sentiments of majority of humans, including our regional friends. The call in particular charted a course for countries to achieve the Sustainable Development Goals, in particular Goal 14, conserve and sustainably use the oceans, seas and marine resources. Ladies and gentlemen, while we are working towards delivering this, constantly we must audit how we have delivered onto these 17 SDGs. Ladies and gentlemen, blue-green growth must be a mandatory priority for every nation and every global citizen, and we need not only a national movement but a regional movement on this, and probably a global movement. It is the path of economic growth which, through utilization of natural resources in a sustainable manner. Through the green movement, countries focus on green economy, renewable energy sources, green construction, green transportation, environment, green technologies and green land management, food sustainability, forestry, green tourism, green industries, amongst other similar environmental friendly initiatives and programs. Through the blue growth, nations focus upon the economic potential of oceans, seas and coastal areas through sustainable practices. Blue growth relates to blue energy, aquaculture, marine and coastal tourism, marine biotechnology, marine protected areas and other similar topics relating to blue economy. Ladies and gentlemen, like I stated earlier, Pacific Island nations have been in the global limelight recently through sustained calls for sustainable development, and this conference could not have come at a better time. It is important that you make a mark out of this conference, how we get this information out, how do we use the IT network to set the platform for discussions out of this conference. I think it's important that the organizers take advantage and see how we could see this conference being one of the foundation platforms for research-based call for the blue-green economy and sustainability. There are no qualms in agreeing that Pacific Island people are extremely close to their land and sea. From relying on nature for food and water, we in the Pacific have orchestrated various means and ways to earn money from the gift of nature. Now it is our turn to give back to nature and to ensure that future generations are not deprived of the benefits that we have derived from the current environment. Ladies and gentlemen, the gathering today affirms the commitment that you all and your organizations have contributed towards the development and progress of the Pacific. The dissemination of important research findings on contemporary economic, social, and political issues will certainly create the think tank which offers valuable foresight and ideas of emerging Pacific matters and issues. For some reason or the other, this valuable contribution to think tank has been absent in the Pacific for some time. I do hope that this again sets a platform for development of think tanks in thematic areas which could assist governments and policymakers to assist in policy making. Ladies and gentlemen, the University of South Pacific's contribution to education in Fiji and the region has been enormous. The collaborated effort of such esteemed organizations and groups lays the foundation for the game changer education dosage which we very critically need in our region. And it's time now that we move upward vertically to ensure that we contribute towards more research-based higher degrees and development of cadre of researchers that the entire region needs. I leave you all with the words of our Prime Minister, Honorable Prime Minister, who at the ACP high-level breakfast meeting on unlocking the potentials of the blue economy for sustainable development of SIDS summed that, and I quote, "While Pacific nations rightly identify ourselves as stewards of the ocean in our own part of the world, we cannot save our waters on our own, and nor can the nations of the Caribbean or coastal nations of Africa. A collective global effort is required," unquote. The conference today is reminiscent to that collective effort that is foreshadowed by Honorable Prime Minister. I wish you highly worthwhile and enriching knowledge and enhancement experience. It's my pleasure to open this conference. I do hope that you will, while discussing on these issues, topics, and I can see a very interesting array of papers, you'll also take time to see Fiji and build networks. Thank you, Naka.
Thank you, Dr. Reddy. Thank you once again to our guests, Professor Cole, Dame Meg Taylor, and the Honourable Minister, for being here this morning. You have set the stage for 2 days of stimulating debate and discussion around themes of pressing importance to our region. Thank you for your participation and for your contributions. This now concludes the opening session, and I now invite all of you to join us for morning tea. Thank you. A bit early.